I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Bar merch. Okay, so we are about to do Crimson Halls of Blood by Thyrane? Guys, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the band name. I think it's Thyrane. What would you say? Thyrane?
Yeah, Thyrane.
Okay.
Thyrane.
So,
I'm not sure.
this is for the big homie John. So here we are.
Shout out to the big homie John. This has probably been one of the best fire streams we've ever had in a very, very long time. Lots of humor. We got the big homie Jeff Fisher in the house.
It's because I was here.
Sop with Snoopy in the house. We got Sori destroying Vin's equipment like normal.
Oh my gosh.
We got a lot of cool stuff happening, and you've missed all of it by the time you watch this, you pathetic individual. How do you not be pathetic? Join the fire stream. How do you know when the fire stream's coming? Well,
You don't!
You don't! May happen randomly, without notice.
Then put your notifications on and click that button and the bell. And they're still not going to send you the notification, so I don't know.
That's right. YouTube is suppressing us.
You know what they're doing?
They're racist.
I know what it is. They're forcing you to stay on YouTube so your live notifications pop.
Right. So you have to be on. You have to be on the whole time.
You have to be on their app.
There's always a reason.
Otherwise you're gonna miss.
There's always a reason, you losers.
All right, let's go.
Look at Jeff. Look how naive and beautiful brother Jeff Fisher is. Hey, if you guys do this again, let me know at least a day ahead of time.
Our kids say the same.
You and 170,000 other people, Jeff.
Right. And us as well, because we don't know day to day.
We also don't know when we're going.
You know what? Talk to Spectrum.
We just know that when we do show up, it's going to be very fun.
Yeah.
And then she's not going to be talking to me for the rest of the night. I know that.
Why?
I don't know.
Did you do something?
No, you did something.
Oh, because of the.
You destroyed my computer.
Okay. Well, we all know what that.
But
is,
I
so
will figure it out. I will figure it out like I always do because that's what I do. Vincent is the figure-outer of the world.
You had to because you married me. Poor thing. Poor miserable man. Everybody in this chat feels bad for you.
I mean, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Unhand me. Unhand me.
But what will you do though? Also, we also showed a very interesting video. It was a Russian video. Huh? We did.
But you missed it because you're not on the fire stream. And now you're sitting there yelling at your computer or your TV or your phone saying, aren't you supposed to play the Thyrane thing or whatever? Why are you talking? It's because I was stalling for time because I didn't download the video because I was too busy trying to fix Sori's destruction of my computer. And you know that Sori wasn't going to do the upload. So here we are, dear listener. All right, now we're back.
For shame.
2 hours and 19. You put that down on your
I already
timestamp
did.
so you don't have to. Oh, you did. Wow, I'm actually very surprised. Thyrane, let's go.
This one. I mean, lyrically, it was like, holy moly.
What year is this?
I don't know, but I liked the way it sounded. I liked the beginning, the way that they opened it up. It sounded like something was kind of gearing up.
Yeah, the build up.
The beginning of the roller coaster. I
Yeah,
don't know, you know what I mean? Like
somebody said something about a roller coaster.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, the rising action was good, especially at the beginning. It was really unique the way that it's. Is it the first song on the record? Because that would be a hell of a way to intro a record.
Nope.
No, it's a seventh song of the record.
Gosh,
Whoa,
if
holy
you're like
moly.
into numbers, like some of the stuff that was said in this song is like pretty crazy, and they put it as song 7, which like, you know, like if you're into numbers, like, you know, 6 is the devil's number, 7 is God's favorite number, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So it's like, what?
Yeah, this is like, I loved like I said, the build up at the beginning, and then they were very, very stingy with the synth, which I'm glad for. Yep. They didn't like, the synth came in like kind of in the midway point of the song, and that was something I was not prepared for, but it added a good depth and layer to it. I was talking to Pete, one of the last conversations we had about our song was, I'm like, yo, I want you to replicate this synth thing here, because, you know, I showed him something, whatever, but, you know, like, I want to be very, very stingy about, you know, using that type of stuff, but it makes it sounds like really, really cool. Lyrically, I guess when I forgot, there was I forgot the name of that
John,
band.
where do you stand on this?
I forgot the name of that band. What was the name of that band that we were listening to? I think it was Neil, it was basically where the devil was like pleading with God, don't do this, blah blah blah.
Oh, I don't
we
remember.
gave it an 11. I forget. Lightbearer.
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 Yeah.
So what I appreciated about Lightbearer lyrically and sonically was like, okay, it's this whole we're against God, we're on Team Satan, blah blah blah. Like, I get it, right? But how many times can you say the same thing over and over and over again? As far as like, I hate God, I blaspheme Christ, blah blah blah. It's like, I get it, bro. You don't like God, but can we go somewhere? Like, I understand. Somebody said like, oh, this is shock rock, which obviously it is. Yeah. It's meant to shock you, and I think it would have been shocked in 1990. I mean, I wasn't prepared for him. Like, what is it? I'll slit your throat and then, you know, whatever. Yeah. I think that there is necessity for shocking, offensive art. I think that that's important because it creates a sort of, you know, it's honestly, right before we went on air, we were talking about cancel culture and how cancel culture is like, everybody's sick of it. Mm-hmm. You do something 15 years ago, now you can't win American Idol, blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, this is kind of like, boom, like, we're going to say the most craziest offensive thing. So on the one hand, there is a sort of sacred nature of art to offend people. Mm-hmm. And there have been two major moments where cancel culture has really been like, really attacked, and there was nothing cancel culture could do about it. One was about 2 years ago, there was some award show with Ricky Gervais, mm-hmm. and he had a little monologue, and he dissed all the actors there. He's like, all you guys, he basically said, you're all full of shit, you're all liars, oh, wow. You're all whatever, and he just called out their hypocrisy, and they just stood there. It was like a Paul Washer, why are you loud? I'm talking about you type of.
Oh, wow.
Right, so that was one. And then the second one was Dave Chappelle, that last one that he did where he just blitzed everybody. Mm-hmm. And you know,
Sticks and Stones, is that what it was called?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was Sticks and Stones. He just blasted everybody. So it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, that's important, right? Like, the ability to offend and say, I don't care how you feel, this is what I think, too bad, that's important. So when I look at lyrics like that, I go, okay, he's mad at God. Oh, he's going to do this to Jesus. Okay. And so as a Christian, I'm like, I don't even get offended by this stuff. Like, I think that's one of the things, like, if I could talk to, like, the craziest, most hardcore metal Satanist, it's like, my understanding of Christ is is that of the members of the Trinity, he's the one that executes God's justice. I believe that it was Jesus who went around and killed 400,000 of Sennacherib's people or whatever it was. It wasn't 400,000. It was like, 5,000 people in the camp, whatever. It says angel of the Lord just went through and slaughtered everybody. Like, that's my understanding of who Jesus is.
Right.
is the young sort of zealous,
Yeah.
hot-headed.
Yep.
It's like watching what was the name of that Troy with
Yes.
the Brad Pitt character.
Yes.
Like the Achilles, like it's so
Yeah.
funny. This dude was throwing swords from like 200 yards away and like
Yeah.
hitting direct. That's my understanding of Jesus. My understanding of Jesus is the greatest warrior
With a tattoo on his leg.
who voluntarily allowed himself to be brutalized to accomplish redemption for us. But we were talking about this, with the kids at dinner, where he said, I'm going to show up in 40 years in the clouds. You're going to see me, and I'm going to destroy all of your shit. And he did it. So that's my understanding of Christ. Like, Jesus coming down here and not destroying God's enemies is an anomaly. And he did destroy God's enemies with the cross, ultimately. But from Genesis to Revelation, the default position of Jesus is that he's a warrior. God is the Father. See, that's the thing that's really ironic to me.
Is interesting, huh?
Is that a lot of people think God the Father
He's kind of out of character.
is the mean one, and that Jesus is the nice one. So God the Father is up there going, man, fuck these people, I hate them. And Jesus going, hold on, wait a second, I'll go die for them, and then you don't have to hate them. So that's not how it is.
Right.
I mean, there's a passage in the Old Testament where, again, I believe you'll have to show up. I don't know how you're gonna get this. We had a Bible boogie about it, but David did something, and then it says the angel of the Lord was hanging between earth and heaven with a drawn sword, ready to destroy the entire. And then it says, then Yahweh says to him, just stay your hand.
Yeah.
Just give him another chance. So in that situation, Jesus was ready to wreck shop.
Yep.
And God the Father said, no, don't do it. But then in 70 AD, or 68, 69, he showed up again in the sky, and this time God said, let him have it. So when I see this stuff about, oh, we're going to do this to Christ and that to Christ, I'm like, man, like, it doesn't offend me because I don't believe that you're going to do that. And Jesus doesn't need me to defend him. That's the thing. It's like, people are like, are you offended? It's like, well, it doesn't matter if I'm offended. If Jesus is real, then it doesn't matter whether or not I'm offended. And if he's not real, it still doesn't matter whether I'm not offended. But if he is real, then you don't have to worry about me. So I don't, like, stuff like this doesn't, like, it doesn't affect me that way. It doesn't, like, I don't look at it like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that about Christ. I need to go and shoot a video and defend Jesus from these people, these mean people who put their blasphemy to a guitar. Like, but maybe my reaction to it is not common. What's your reaction when you see this stuff?
For me, it's kind of like, one when I see some of this stuff, like, I think about what is influencing that. So as Christians, it talks about, like, there's a verse that talks about we don't wrestle against flesh and blood,
right,
but against principalities and powers of darkness. And so basically that's saying that behind everything is some sort of spirit. And so, I think when this person was writing this, I guess it depends on which song it is, but, like, for this one specifically, I was thinking, did they write it because they were personally angry with Jesus for some reason?
Right.
Did they write it because they wanted to mock him and degrade him as much as they possibly could? Were they trying to explain something? Like, sometimes I think that like, for instance, sometimes, like we have one kid that Like, sometimes when he gets really bad, it's because something's really bothering him. It's not that he's trying to be, like, bad. Like, sometimes, like, one of the kids will be, like, sneaky and lie and stuff like that. It's not like that. It's like they're having a hard time, and so then they start acting out. And then you see what they're doing, and you're like, what they're doing is not good, but why are they doing it? And so then you start talking to them, and then you find out that there's actually something pretty significant that's bothering them that they didn't even realize was bothering them. They were just feeling a certain way, and so they acted out because of that. So is it like something like that? Like, is this person, bothered, and so they kind of put that out? But then I think to myself, well, really doesn't matter what their reason was for writing it, because behind what they're writing, behind that, I believe that there are evil spirits that are influencing this song, to say those kinds of things and to say those, because it was pretty disrespectful, the way that they said demonic horrors cut your throats and suck your stillborn Jesus, mother effing Christ. That's like pretty crazy line, and it's very rude. So like, but I hear what you're saying. Like, I also saw this movie one time where there was like this character that it wasn't a shapeshifter, but essentially that, and he was super, super powerful, and he was trying to trick somebody, so he came in the form of like this old man, and they were like, we have to kill him when he's in that form, because that's the only way that we can like overpower him, is when he takes on that form, because all of his other forms were just massively powerful. And so in the end they capture him in that form. Like they're able to, well, it's not that form, they get him in actually a weaker form. But I think that that's what happened. Like when Jesus came, like when he came as a baby, that was his weakest form. Right. And so him saying like the stillborn, blah, 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 like he's in his weakest form, like let's get him then. It's kind of funny, like when you can kind of like pull back and look at the story, because it's like he was in his weakest form, and they were like, let's get him while we can. And so he gets crucified, and you can kind of picture like, I know that not everybody believes in demonic forces, but let's just say that there are actually spirits that are behind everything. And so when Jesus is dying on the cross, you can imagine that they were probably like, that's it, like we got him, like in his weakest form, And then 3 days later he rises from the dead, and he's more powerful than he ever was, and he gets a name that he didn't have before that, and it's just all this craziness. So it's kind of like, you thought that you won, but like you were actually tricked, and you were tricked by him in his weakest form. It's like, boo you,
Although, to your point though, like, burning blood will baptize thy rancid, filthy flesh, and atrocities extends to heaven's heights. Christians, you shall die at the theater of torment and slavery. So that, to your point, is coming from a place of pain. And a lot of times, like, people, especially dudes, like, it's very rare for a dude to be like, you hurt my feelings. So what happens is a person has a personal injury by a representative of Christ, and they've been, whether it's a parent, it's usually a parent.
Yeah, it is a lot of times.
It's usually a parent, but the dude is too prideful to say, my father hurt me, so this is why I have a problem with your religion. So then they'll say, look what Christians have done throughout history, right? So like, they don't know what actually instigated the Crusades, because surprise, surprise, the Crusades are not as simplistic as people think they are, like a good guy and a bad guy. But that's not really the concern. The concern is they got hurt, but they're too prideful to say, especially dudes, I got hurt. So they'll say, oh, that's a historical thing. It's just like the woman at the well. She had a personal issue. And then instead of dealing with her personal issue, she says, you Jews worship here. And she tries to turn in this big historical geopolitical issue. And Jesus completely ignores and says, yeah, just bring your husband. Because that was her personal issue. Her personal issue was, she had some questionable sexual mores, and then her religious community completely excised her from the community. And so Jesus was trying to say, look, you're more valuable than what you've done with your body, and I'm going to turn you into a worshiper of God, and you've got value to God, even if your community, whatever. Yeah. So if Jesus would have reacted to the bait, because she tried to get him into a racial conversation, if he would have reacted to that, he wouldn't have been able to help her. So I think a lot of times, like, as I'm listening to you talk, like with your, as Christians, we see stuff like this and we get so offended, right? So like one way to look at it is like I said earlier, I'm not offended by it. I worry about people when they say stuff like that. I'm like, oh, but I'm not personally, I don't think I've ever been personally offended by that. Because I talk to Jesus every day. So I feel like, I'm like, man, I know, dude. That's not a good idea. But there's a lot of, the main reaction that Christians have when they hear that is your point. They never look at the sin beneath the sin. They never look at, why is this person so vitriolic against Christ? And why is everybody talking about all the Crusades and you guys did this and religion is the cause of all bad and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I know that religion isn't the cause of all evil in the world, but that's not the issue with a lot of people. A lot of people don't have an issue with religion. They have an issue with 2 or 3 people or some church or whatever that completely, basically slit their throats. I mean, we've killed a lot of people, and I do not mean crusades. I mean in the way that the church tells people that God views them. If you convince a person that God can't stand them and is just waiting to send that lightning bolt to split their head open and send them all to hell, you convince somebody of that, that there's been a lot. I mean, I'll never forget one of the first gay friends I had, Mikkel. He was talking about how he was trying to change so much and he couldn't stop being gay. So he did the whole exhaust thing with the car or whatever, and if his friend didn't find him, he'd been dead. So, you just sending these kids off to these camps, these camps to change them. Meanwhile, idolatry and greed are the greatest sins in the scripture that carry the most invective from God. So if a Christian parent sees a greedy kid, he doesn't get sent to a greed camp. He doesn't get sent to an idolatry camp, but let that kid be a little bit feminine. Let that parent find some magazine or whatever, and then send the kid off to a camp like he's got the bubonic plague or whatever. Yeah. And then go ahead and convince that kid that he's loved unconditionally by you and God. Like,
the other thing too, it's
shit is crazy.
Practical. Like, if somebody doesn't have like an issue that goes that deep into them, and you think that a camp is going to change that? Yeah. No, the camp is only going to make them hide it from you. Like, and then the kid's got siblings, so then he comes home and you're the freak who got sent to the camp. Terrible. Like California made that illegal, and I remember when that happened. And really? it is a fine line, because when the state is telling people what to do with their kids, I'm like, I got a problem there. Right. Yeah. However. That particular, and what we're talking about is Christian parents sending their kids to these gay camps to deprogram them from being gay. Yeah. I'm generally like, the state needs to stay the fuck away from people when it comes to their kids. But holy shit, man, that is like, that's one where I make an exception, because that is destructive as hell. Yeah. We've got a bunch of kids, so if we sent somebody off to some camp and he came back. Like, and then what? He's supposed to be treated like what? That's what I mean. Like, we've killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people this way. And there is a way to say this is God's design. Men are men, women are women. It's the only way you can. At the end of the day, I don't care how advanced we are, you still need men and women to come together to have children. Like, there's we have said explicitly over and over again that what God designs, what you see in the Garden of Eden between men and women, is God's optimal design. And everything outside of that, whether it's a hetero version or a homo version or whatever, any variation from that is sinful. We've said it a million times. And yet, for some reason, we still have LGBT friends. It's almost like LGBT people can respect people's convictions when you're not hammering on them and telling them they're the world's most horrible people and blah, 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 blah.
You know, our thing has always been, look, nobody takes a shower before they take a bath, and we come to Jesus to get cleaned up. So I'm not going to put any prerequisites before you get connected to Jesus. Just connect to Jesus. You know what he says about it, and you tell him, hey, look, if you want me to change this, I can't change this because I was born this way. So you're going to have to like either rebirth me or come up with some other solution because I can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
That's the message we should be telling people. Yeah. Instead, we put a lot of really good, beautiful people into the ground with our bullshit, homophobia, and other shit. And half of y'all are gay anyway. And that's why you're so horrible with your own kids, because you can't reconcile yourself to yourself. But we're not gonna have that conversation. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like today, I had a couple different conversations with a few different people. You know, the first person that I was talking to was saying that they're, creating music, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, what type of music are you creating? And the person was talking about the songs that they're making right now and how the songs are basically like pro LGBT, BQ. Oh, I'm saying it wrong.
LGBT.
Yeah, Q. Yeah, it's they're creating songs like that. And I'm like, oh, I'd love to hear like the lyrics of that. And then they were saying like basically how people have been so mean to them, Christians specifically, and how they're just like kind of like pushed to the side by Christians, and that person doesn't feel like that's right at all. And I'm like, okay, I can see that, especially. And then they were saying because Christians have their own sins that they're dealing with, but they put all this focus on that group instead of dealing, like, it would be one thing if you were like, if the person was like, okay, like there's this one guy that is like clearly overweight. He's he obviously has issues with gluttony, but he's not out there saying, look, I have a problem where I can't stop eating. Like, food is like my God more than Jesus is. Like, he can't say that. He's gonna just go out there and just like pointing all these fingers.
I was 5 minutes away from jumping on a chat with him.
It's very wrong. And then, so interestingly enough, I ended up in another conversation with someone because they were talking. They were bringing up the same topic, except they had a different view on it. They were like asking me these questions about it, and then I was saying how everybody has something that they struggle with, and there's not anybody that has no struggles. Like, everybody has sin struggles. And then this person was like, well, I don't have anything. And I said, well, you're a massively prideful person. And they were like, no. Yeah.
100%.
I was like, well, you are.
100%.
I mean,
100%.
you are, but like, I'm not trying to attack you. I said, I'm just saying, like, you, and I said, when you look at it, like, that's why Satan fell out of heaven, was because he was so prideful. And so pride is like, that's like the first, when you look at like the history of everything, like, that was the first sin, was pride.
It's the original and the root.
Yeah.
It's the original sin, and it's the root of all sins.
Yeah. So it's like, but the person was like, no. It was just like, it was just interesting to see the different places that people are at, and how like one person was very, very concerned about it, and the other person was like, well, that's a problem, but I don't have any problem. You know what I mean? Just the way that different people deal with.
Oh, facts. Facts.
But it's, everybody has places that they need to grow in. And, there was years ago, I would have absolutely, I'm pretty sure I pulled my car over to sign the little thing saying that, people couldn't get married if they weren't a man and a woman. And like you said before, our stance is a biblical stance. That's not God's design. But at the same time, like, all this energy going into that, and like, I don't know, like, I think that's why Jesus said, like, take the plank or the big log out of your own eye before you go picking at the splinter in somebody else's. Like, deal with your issues also. And I think that's kind of been a problem where people are unwilling to acknowledge their own issues and where they need help. Where the church is unwilling to talk about its own issues, and then it's pointing the finger at everybody else. So that's definitely a problem. Mm-hmm. But
and here's the last thing I'll say, because it's one of the things that's the most, I would say it's misunderstood, but the way that we portray things, it's almost not misunderstood. Do this and that, and you'll go to heaven. Christianity is based on selfishness. If there was no promise of heaven, Christians wouldn't think of anyone else. So that comes from a understanding of salvation by works or by deeds, that you get heaven based on doing X and Y, Z thing. And if that was true, then the criticism would be accurate.
Yeah.
But what's unique about Christianity, and what's singular about Christianity, really, is that pretty much every religion recognizes that there is an ideal and that the practitioners of the religion haven't hit it. And so there's all different ways to how do you solve that problem of not being able to attain the ideal. One is, well, you just keep dying and then coming back until it's kind of like, you have a good math teacher and you're supposed to get 10 out of 10 for an A, but you got question 8 wrong. And so the teacher says, well, redo question 8. So that's reincarnation. It's kind of like redo this life again until you figure it out and blah, blah, blah. And then you get to progress. Or the Abrahamics, it's basically, hey, God's got a law. Do your best to keep the law. And on the day of judgment, he'll put your good deeds on a scale. Good ones go over here, bad ones go over here. Whichever one's heavy is what you're going to end up with. That's not what Christianity is saying. What Christianity is saying is you could be reborn 8 trillion times. You still would never attain to the ideal. And you can keep the law to the best of your ability. When you show up before God, the bad is always going to outweigh the good. So here's what we'll do. I will come down, live as one of you, follow the law perfectly, then pay the price for your inability to follow the law, die, rise from the dead. If you believe that, then you're in for good. You never have to do any good thing ever again. I don't have to do any good thing for the rest of my life to be in, because Jesus paid it all. I do good things once in a while because I'm inspired by the love of Jesus.
Yeah.
Honestly, Paul says the love of Christ compels us because we're convinced that one died for all, therefore all died. And he died for all so that they who he died for would live for him who died for them. Just, subhanAllah. So he's right. That criticism is right if the gospel isn't true. But again, Christians are so bad at telling the, how many people have said, hey, if I would have heard about Christianity from you guys and I like your Christianity, it's like, I'm a bad version of authentic Christianity. So what the hell have people been getting? We have not been putting out the message. We've been styling ourselves as the good moral people. We're the moral police. And if you're as good as us, maybe you'll get to heaven. And so we've completely, distorted the message, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. 2 things. I know we don't usually go into the chat too much when we're in a video, but one thing Bill had asked: should a church be forced to marry a gay couple? I don't believe that anybody should be forced to do anything against their own conscience. And in any atmosphere, if your conscience dictates something to you, you should. I don't believe anybody should be forced to go against that. And then Misery Reaction said there are many paths to heaven. Excuse me.
Well, here's the other thing.
Let
me just say real quick on the should the church be forced. There's this racist church called the Church of Israel in Missouri. I don't believe they should be forced to do our wedding.
No, I don't either.
They're a racist church. They don't believe. Yeah. They don't believe in miscegenation.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not burning down houses. Okay, that's fine. I'll go to another church that does. So I agree with you.
I would even want somebody that didn't agree with what I was doing to celebrate to even do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, although with LGBT folks, there was the local issue of a given church doing it, but the main issue was their marriage licenses were being invalidated.
Oh.
So
you can't do just peace?
No, not prior to the Obergefell decision. And then what would happen is you would have these marriage licenses in Massachusetts, and then you'd go to Iowa, and they'd say we don't recognize it. So they weren't trying to get people to force people to marry them. They were just saying, okay, fine, you disagree with us, but can we have some, the legal protections that happen when you get married, etc. And then the many paths to heaven thing.
Yeah, and what we always say about that is that there's only one path to heaven, and that's through Jesus. but there are many ways to get to Jesus. So all of us have a different journey. All of us have a different path of spirituality that we are on currently. Every single person is on a path of spirituality. It just depends on which direction that path is taking you. So some paths are going to find Jesus, and then that path on with Jesus is going to lead you to heaven. And then there are other people that are on a path that is not toward Christ, and that will never lead toward him. So
yeah, Jesus didn't feel there were many ways to God.
Right.
He felt there's only one way to God.
He said it explicitly.
It's a 6.5 for me.
There's one thing in here that I wanted. Oh, where is it? What's this? Burning blue shall baptize thy flesh.
It's burning blood.
Oh.
Yeah, they just forgot the.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This chat is the
So
chat that's happening at 6.5 or 6.6. I'll give it a 6.6. How about that?
I'll meet you there. 6.6.
Hey guys, I'm getting married next month. Is it weird that we're getting married yet neither one of us are religious in any way? No, I don't think it's weird at all. I think it's cool. Get married.
Let's end the review though if we want to chat more.
There we are, dear listener. Vin out.
Story out.
Gone.